Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Tech Informist, where we will inform you, our listeners, about the technological industry, apps you should download on your favorite gadgets, and much, much more. My name is JJ Hammond. Are you ready to be informed? Of course you are. Up first, our guest for the show. He's been fascinated with technology since his dad was working to restore a 1964 Chevy El Camino. That's hot. And your fascination took off from there with electricity and all things geeked out. He is a writer and editor at Android Central for over the last year and has now, with a huge team since 2010, the man that makes all other neckbeards cry, Jerry Hildenbrand. Hello and welcome to the show, sir.
Hi, everybody. That was an awesome intro. I hope I can live up to that.
Oh, dude, you've already done it. You can phone it in, literally. It'll be okay. But this show is not possible, however, without my good friend, founder of this show and what is our STLTechTalk.com umbrella, the uncanny Kevin Harvell. Hello, Kevin, and good morning.
Good morning, JJ. Good morning, Jerry. Thank you again for joining us both on this fine day.
Thanks for having me, guys.
And don't forget, everybody, if you're in the St. Louis area, check out STLTechTalk.com. Also, if you want to know more about the world of coding, check out our Codecast by STL Tech Talk. We don't silo that just to St. Louis, but we have that more broad and around the world kind of topics on how to program and code and different stuff like that. I apologize. That's all my gadgets going off at the same time. Hey, did you know that you have a show with Jerry Hildenbrand coming on and right now? And everybody go check out contact@thetechinformist.com to send your feedback, plus Twitter. I'll be monitoring that throughout the show, so if you guys have any questions or whatever the case may be, check out Tech Informist on Twitter. Also, special thank yous to Ben the PC Guy Rudolph. Thank you so much for our last show. That was phenomenal. Also, we want to take out the sec to thank the sponsors of the show, Unidev. If you dream it, they can build it. Custom software, end-to-end development, beautiful web design, and creative marketing solutions. In business for the last 25 years with 200-plus customers, 24/7 support, you will not be let down or left out on the creation of your dreams. If you want software development, content management systems, mobile development, e-commerce solutions, digital marketing, and hosting, go to our website, stltechtalk.com, and click on their banner and get the high-quality service you deserve today. Now let's get to the reason why we're all here for the show, and that's to talk with Jerry. What got you interested in technology overall? I know I kind of alluded that into the introduction, but kind of take it from there.
Yeah, I think I'm predisposed to liking this kind of stuff. But some of my earliest memories when I was a kid, my dad got like you said, an old El Camino, and when he got it, it wasn't even that old, but it was in pretty rough shape. So he pulled it into the garage, and in his spare time in the evenings, he restored it piece by piece. And because I was the only son, of course, you're coming to the garage. And at first, I was like, I don't want to. I want to, play in television. But get pulled out into the garage, and every little piece it gets shown to me. And come over here under the light, and we're going to do this and that. And it started to get cool. And then I can remember when we got to replacing the ignition and the coil, and my dad explained to me how electricity makes a combustion engine work and how it goes through the ignition and it can do all these other things. And we played with the fuse block, and I was hooked. I was like, okay, that's awesome. Looking at the brakes and springs and wires, that was kind of cool, but this is awesome. That battery can make a little explosion.
A little explosion, he says. I like that.
I got into, I really got into electricity. Somehow you can nerd out into electricity, and I was able to do it. And that carried on, and it carried through high school, and then, you have the shop geeks that dig electricity and stuff, and I'm a little bit older, and that's when computer science really started to kick off.
Oh, sure.
And the teachers of those things kind of overlapped, and that got me into computer science, and Linux was new, and every kid in school was learning about Linux, and here's how this kernel works, and we can play with it and submit our patches, and we did that, and it just carried on, and then everything culminated. I went to school as an electrical engineer and ended up writing software like every other electrical engineer did in the 90s.
Right.
And it just blossomed from there.
That's really cool. So, what was your first aha moment when you made something do something?
I worked with a company that built the original machinery that made HP inkjet cartridges.
Whoa.
And that really kicked our butt for weeks and weeks, how to build them, then handle them without crushing them. And when we finally got that to work, that was big party. Oh my God, everybody danced.
So I'll never be able to look at an HP printer the same because I should put a neckbeard on HP every HP that I see from now. No, I'm just kidding. No. So that's really cool. Kevin, you're up.
So you are a full-time writer and editor and contributor over at Android Central, and I know you've been, Phil and the guys, offered that position to you a little over a year or so ago.
Yeah.
What was it about Android Central, the entire community? What got you started? What drew you to Android Central originally? I mean, I think according to your forum profile, it was like October 2009 or something when you created your forum profile.
Yeah.
What was it about Android and Android Central that got you into wanting to be there?
Well, I remember when Android was first announced,
Mm-hmm.
and this was pre G1. We all the super nerds on the internet that also liked smartphones. I was using a BlackBerry at the time, but I knew, okay, this is an open source software platform with hardware that you're going to be able to tinker with. I knew I had to do it. So I got my G1, and I just assumed that this will be something I mess with in my spare time because I need my BlackBerry. It sends me my email, and I can make my phone calls. But after fooling with it and using it, and then an update or two later, I mean, come on, the G1 was really cool, but it wasn't that reliable when it first came out. I wasn't ready to replace my BlackBerry. But then when it got better, I'm like, well, this is something that I can not only fool with, but I could actually carry around and use as my personal smartphone. That means I can probably do something really cool to make my personal smartphone better. So I said goodbye to BlackBerry, and I was a member at Crackberry at the time, so I clicked that banner at the bottom to Android Central and jumped over. Once I got there, there was a lot of people just like me who were, old school geeky type of people that really were into what can we make this phone do that it's not supposed to do. And you get mixed up with those, and we were shooting messages back and forth to each other, and it really felt like home in the community itself. And then one day, not too long after that, Phil asked me a question because he saw in the forums that I kind of knew what I was doing. And a friendship with Phil started, and I started full-time a year or so ago, but I'd been a contributor for a long time, on a voluntary basis, and got to know Phil and all the guys, and I don't know, they're like family. They're fun to work with, and fun is important to me. This is the best job I've ever had, I'm not going to lie.
That's awesome, dude. And you can really tell in the way you write, excuse me, the way you write, the way you interact with everybody on the shows, the way you interact with people on forums, the way you do certain things. You can always tell emotions through people's actions. Like, it's not like if then that statements or whatever. It's like you take the time out, you do things, nothing's automated. Like, you're passionate about it, and that's what really brings me coming back to you guys as like my number one source to find out about this and this and this and all the ecosystems and that. So you can really tell that you are passionate about what you do.
Well, cool, because I am. I mean, I really am. This is not mechanical. I just like it.
Yeah, and I mean that kind of leads into the next topic. That it's no secret that people love some of your not more traditional writing for an Android website. You break out special themed articles, such as the microscope, so you get in there to see really how dirty our phones truly are that most people don't even realize. Tell us more about how those article ideas come to be, how the team responds to them, and then how surprised you are maybe sometimes at how well they're received by the readership.
So this is how the donuts are made. We have a Skype session. We use Slack, and we have Hangouts. The five of us, I call us the Fab Five: Phil, myself, Andrew, Alex, and Richard. We talk with each other all the time. I take Thursdays off, but my day off is still talking with Phil and Richard and Andrew and Alex. We constantly throw ideas at each other. And I've come to find when you can throw an idea at 4 other guys who have seen and done just about everything there is to do with an Android smartphone, and they get excited about it, that's something you have to do. You know, I don't know if that's the best yardstick to use, because sometimes I feel there's a lot of stuff that I think of and just don't have time that probably a lot of people would have liked, but, you know, I can only do so much. But sometimes, that microscope, when that was, you know, let's take 10 minutes, take a couple pictures, and tell people, look, this is how dirty your stuff is. Once we heard it, all 5 of us knew, oh, yeah, that's something you got to write. I think people will really like that. And so you go into it with that idea that people are probably going to like it. But then when you see that people liked it even more than you thought, that makes it really awesome. And it makes you do it even more. Makes me throw more ideas at the guys, and they throw more at me. And we bounce it around, and in hopes, you know, I've written some flops too, let's not lie. I've written a lot of posts that nobody cared about that I thought were super awesome. So,
That's me. I write tons and nobody checks them out.
But, you know, I still thought they were super awesome. I'm going to keep writing them. And, you know, the times when I hit on the one that somebody else thinks is super awesome, that makes it even super awesome.
Well, speaking of super awesome posts, how cool is it to see your post in the Samsung Galaxy commercial the one time?
Yeah. And that was...
Because we had Phil on, and he was like, that was Jerry just being angry one day.
Yes, that was
awesome. He needs to be angry all the time.
You know, I'm glad that all these companies are thriving and making money, but they're making money off of us. It's time that some of us stop worshiping the dollar that these companies make and realize that without us, they are nothing. And when they try to manipulate our opinion or the way we think, or you know how advertising can be, and it's just got to be that way. Sometimes that makes me angry, and I wrote a post that, in retrospect, I wished I hadn't wrote it as soon as I was done, because I'm like, yeah, that's really snarky and crappy, and everybody that likes an iPhone is going to think, well, he's just a typical Android troll, and I'm not.
Right.
But then afterwards, I guess Samsung liked it as much as a lot of other people did. I just thought it was a one-liner, a joke that somebody needed to say, so I wanted to make sure it was me.
Yeah. Well, you did. And to be fair, you are fair too. You've said Windows and Microsoft's doing some things right. You say you say that Apple does some things right and what they do, and you say what Google does right and wrong. So I respect you for those points of views, because without that, you sort of get into this area where you get caught up in the one ecosystem and don't even realize everything that's going on over here. And that makes your opinion more skewed, because no opinion is going to be down the middle. It's just not going to happen. But you want to watch how far over to every side, you know, as possible that you can stay away from.
Right. I mean, I because of what I do for a living, I carry 2 Android phones with me every day.
Okay.
But I also carry an iPhone 5S and a Lumia 635. You know, daily. Those are phones I use. Mostly so I can stay up to date on the technology. I'm thinking I probably got to get an iPhone 6. Yeah. But right now, the 5S, that phone's so well built, I really like it. I'm not even going to lie, and that's what I use to stay abreast on all this stuff.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. The one thing that's interesting to me about the iPhone was that when it came out, you were like, man, I don't know. You're like,
a lot of what I do, I have to do, or it may be just an off-the-cuff joke. Really, if you like an iPhone, I think you've got a really nice phone. If you like a Windows phone, I think you've got a really nice phone. If you like an Android phone, I think you got a really nice phone. And hey, guess what? That's the one I prefer to.
Right.
I try to keep it.
We should mention, though, that I just saw some message You can get a 635 for $39 right now at a Microsoft.
And I have lost audio.
Uh-oh.
You still there?
Well, I can hear you, Kevin.
Yeah. The that Lumia 635. I mean, I guess that's Microsoft kind of like a pre-Black Friday special for $40.
Right.
I mean, I looked at that and I almost jumped on that. I'm like, I've got enough devices still sitting around. Like, I don't need just one more.
Yeah, I definitely don't need one more.
But I looking.
Yeah, I wanted to mention
off-contract price.
Right. I wanted to mention it because it's a great $40 no contract. If you have AT&T, obviously, let's put that disclaimer on there. But it's a great little device. I mean, there's correct me if I'm wrong, but you can expand the storage, and it's just like the 520, only like a lot better, I think.
Right. Now we know Jerry's still there. We can see him.
Yes.
Hopefully he can hear us. Okay.
I can hear you now. I don't know what happened.
No one say the joke. No one Carrier any more attention than they already have. So let's pick up where we left off. So if you're interested, obviously, in development, Phil talks about it on your guys' Android Central podcast you guys do every Friday. Plug. You guys talk about that. About the back and forth you guys have is like Phil is like, hey Jerry, I don't know what this means, and then sometimes you're like, I don't even know what that means, but you for the most part are kind of their go-to resident techie, if you will. So in development and so you're interested in going to a Google I/O each year. Have you released any apps, or do you just like to keep yourself in that swing of things?
I've written a few Android apps, mostly so I could make sure I knew
what the process was like.
Yeah. And I have some people who, requested that maybe I could do something a little special for them. But I mean, the only app I have in Google Play is a joke app I wrote for somebody that worked at Google that I'm not even going to plug, so don't even go looking for it to download it. It's something you don't even want it. You don't want your kids to hear it.
Like you were hunting me down.
No. No.
I will blow your butt off with the 20-odd,
Yeah, but the thing is to know, you got to feel the struggle. And making Android apps is easy. I can make an Android app. Any of us can. Making a good Android app is not easy.
No.
And I just wanted to be more in tune with the tools these guys have, how these tools work. This is Google. A lot of the stuff they put out is a little buggy. They are not afraid to throw everything out there and say, hey, use what you can use, and we'll fix the rest when we can fix it. So, I need to stay up to date on how these guys, and I'm not talking the big premier guy, not Evernote. Evernote, I mean, if you're Evernote, you've got buggy development tools, so what? You'll overcome it. You've got a huge budget and great guys. But these, the people at Pocket Cast, they're a great example. They, I use Pocket Cast, and I listen to your show as well as my show on Pocket Cast.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. I'm fangirling. Nobody can see it, but I'm totally doing that right now.
Yeah, Pocket Cast is one of my favorite apps. That's my #1 podcast app, and it's well worth the money.
And I don't know, but I don't get the impression that they have $1 million budget.
Right.
So how the tools work for them and the process is very important. And I want more apps like Pocket Cast. I want all the apps to be that good. So.
And one of the things I love about Pocket Cast is they're constantly updating it, whether they're adding in new features or just squashing a bug I'm not even seeing for my day-to-day use. Just right. It's like almost every other day or every couple days, there's some small little tweak that they're doing. They're always striving to make it better.
And you have to have the right tools to make those kind of tweaks.
Right.
If you don't do any software development, you don't know how easy it would be to try to make a tweak like that and break everything. And put out an update. And the pitchforks and the flaming bags of manure, they all start heading your way.
Right. So I got a couple of just quick questions on this topic. One, when you're looking at Google I, when you're looking at applications and other people making these applications, at this point, I as a techie, expected the more apps to be more mature. And what I found is, and I don't know if this is an economic thing or not, but what I found is that apps get as much attention as humanly possible. Meaning, the intentions that are there. When we think of big companies, we're like, oh, they're a big company, they can, But what I've seen is that allocation, like resources allocated to mobile app development, have been somewhat lacking. Which is weird for me because I thought that would have been like the #1 approach. But now you have people that are trying to do hybrid things where you have applications that are cloud-based that shoot down, and they're not necessarily something that could be, had on the store, or like there's web apps and there's all these different things. So now there's just stuff all over the place. So that kind of frustrates me. And the other thing is when you do like a mobile app thing and all of a sudden you get a pop-up. When I experienced the pop-up for the first time when I was browsing and stuff like that, and like all of a sudden my speaker starts going off and it was an ad, I about lost it. I was like, what the huh? I was like, this isn't right.
You didn't want to punch the monkey and win an iPad?
No, I punched the monkey several times, but it didn't do me any good. So what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on those two subjects?
As far as the mobile first that we all want to see because we're big fans of mobile, that whole environment's changing. If you look at Microsoft, Apple, and Google, the 2 years ago the push was mobile, mobile, mobile.
Right.
Now it's convergence. Let's get mobile to work better with the desktop and the cloud. And Google has a big advantage there, but Microsoft and Apple are doing everything they can to even the plate. And that takes time away. I know best from Android development tools. You would have thought they would have been much more polished by now.
Right.
I agree. Those guys are spending a lot of time with other stuff, and I think that's the. I don't know if that's like I don't want to say the mantra at Google especially, and I'm going to assume Apple and Microsoft, but it's. The cloud is going to bring everything together, and that's what everybody wants.
Right.
So,
okay.
Time is getting split. Tools are getting mishmashed together, so people can write these apps that will do it all. And that means that the one particular segment we're interested in may fall behind a little bit. And as far as the pop-ups, I hate them. I agree with you. I mean, if I wanted to punch monkeys, I'd go to the zoo and punch them. I don't want to see that garbage on any screen I own. So.
Well, how about the ones that have so your audio goes off? You know what that is one of the most frustrating things in the world for me is if I'm doing something, and I'm like reading an article, for example, and the next thing you know, I hear like this advertisement. Did you know that OxyClean can or whatever the heck,
Yes.
And I'm like, stay as far away from me as humanly possible, developer. Whoever did that, I'm coming for you.
I want every developer to be able to make a good living as a software developer. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, me too.
But Google has improved the way ads can be displayed in applications. Apple has new iAds now. Mm-hmm. Let's spend a little bit of time on how you're going to show me that ad because it's part of your application. Right. Don't focus on 99% of it and then blow something in my face that I don't care about. If it has to be something that I don't care about, let's display it nicely. And that goes for mobile, the web, even the TV now. I mean, heck, I really think that next year we're going to see ads on the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4. I don't see how they're going to stay ad-free forever. Yeah,
they have to monetize. And we have to, as consumers, we have to be prepared for what this new cloud first, mobile first. I mean, because if we're wearing the Android wear, we got the phone, we're getting these notifications and different stuff like that. They're not making money off of that stuff.
Right.
We're not engaging in any way. That has to be the Internet of Things type conversation that comes in where, I get a coupon or something, right, or whatever. Right. There has to be some monetization there, or they're not going to do it. I mean, we see that with Bing, or when it switched over to MSN. Inside the Bing apps on Windows 8, and now moving forward, we see that within the natural apps, there's these little sections where you can see advertisements, and I think we're going to see more of that, like you said, on the Xbox and PlayStation, because they have to monetize that. I mean, it's a screen. There's no reason not to.
Right. And, you know, like, I want them to make money. If they don't make money, they won't continue.
Right. Kevin, you're up with the next question, sir.
So you were a BlackBerry user, and if Android were to stop moving forward, and for some strange reason Google said, you know what, Android, we're done with it, which mobile platform could you see yourself moving to if you had to make a choice, and why?
Ideally, it would be those Firefox phones from Mozilla, because they're more open than Android is. Period.
Really? Okay.
You know, Mozilla is all about open source, and the users contribute while it's in development. That's the difference. Google develops it behind closed doors and then gives you the source. At Mozilla, here's your source. There's a nightly build for your phone. Hey, feel free to download it and monkey with it and send us patches. And you know that that's just what I have to have now. After being able to modify my own smartphone in my pocket, I can't go back to not.
Right.
Yeah, I would agree. But I mean, are you concerned about it not being very?
Yes. Absolutely.
I'm going to stop you right there. And I'm going to answer your question. No, go ahead.
Actually, I mean, to be completely honest, what I would probably do if Google said, okay, we're discontinuing Android, I would buy as many Nexus phones as I could and just use them until they disintegrated, because, you know, I can download the last copy of the source code and still monkey with it. Okay. And then hope that Mozilla or somebody else, let's bring up Tizen. Samsung could bring out Tizen phones. Just give me something that I can monkey with and still find useful.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah, totally.
But don't scare me with those kind of questions. Google.
How dare you? How dare you? Kevin, you're up with the next one.
No, we hope Android doesn't go anywhere anytime soon. So, what are your thoughts on Android L so far? You've had some time to play around with, obviously, probably the developer preview and now the full release versions.
We just talked about this a few weeks back, and same stuff, different year. It's I love the direction Android's going. I love the new design, and I'm really nerding out over all the new APIs that developers can leverage and make their software seem more seamless. But, and that's a big but, by the time all the tiny little bugs and nags are worked out, we'll be ready for the next version. That's how it works almost every year. Mm-hmm. And that's why I like to think of, you've got a Nexus phone and you get the latest version of the software. You're like the final beta tester.
Right.
Because Samsung can't afford to throw out, when we first got our Nexus 6s, I don't think that it had the retail software on it, so this maybe not be the best example, but there was some serious issues with the lock screen.
Oh, right.
Samsung can't throw out a phone like that. Imagine the backlash. Look at the backlash when they do throw out a phone that has a bug. So Google kind of gets away with it because most of the people that buy Nexus phones are the type of people who search about Android on the internet. Right. I know Google wants it to be a consumer brand, but it's just not there yet.
Right.
When it does become a consumer brand, that kind of stuff has to stop.
Right.
You can't send me a phone that has something that locks everything open and it gets so hot I don't want to hold it. I will accept that as your final beta tester. Right. And that's what I see with Lollipop. Lollipop is the right direction. It makes a Nexus look beautiful on the software side. That's something we could never say before.
Right.
Reminds me a lot of a light HTC look.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not a bad thing. I really like it. I just need to see some of these final bugs worked out. And I imagine there's a big troop of people who have been working 7 days a week at a desk in Mountain View, and if they could hear me right now, they would just shake their fists and cuss at me. We're working as hard as we can.
Right.
Yeah. No, we understand that they are, and
if only there was a way for me
to a great start.
code the cloud to strike you with lightning. So 2 things I have on this is, one, isn't it nice? Well, it is for me, for Google to have a UI that they can point to that's a unified. This is Google, right?
Yeah.
Instead of this is a just collection of things. It's a design language. I mean, Apple, you go to Apple, it's its own thing. Windows, you go to Windows, you got the tiles, and they're going to go to their grave screaming tiles. So that's fine. That's great, because we need. For me, I think it's enjoyable for me to hop over to the different things and enjoy those unique UI things, right? Like, because the material design for me is gorgeous. I really like the paper, the way that they've implemented all the things that they've done. The little UI things, it's little stuff like that. I mean, we have to make it enjoyable. I've said this several times on our show, which is like when I interact with my phone, I want it to be enjoyable. I don't want it to be this thing, another thing that I have to do. And if it's unique to each ecosystem, so we got Windows with their tiles and Apple with their parallax, whatever, and then Google with their material design. I think it's nice for Google now to have something to point to say, here's what we would like to see.
Agreed. Even the parts of material design that I don't like, I still love, because it's a cohesive design language. And the best part to me is that Google is really actively sharing all this stuff with developers. Here's how you can make your app fit in. We don't want you to clone our app, but if you use these tools and use this color palette, your app is going to fit right in and still be your own, and that's awesome.
Yeah, that is really cool. Yeah, it's really, really cool. And the other thing too is the fact that it's better as far as using battery life. What I've been able to tell, I've been happy with its use of the hardware as opposed to other builds of Android.
Yeah, it's too early for me to tell.
Okay.
I am that guy who will, by the time I tell you if Android Lollipop is better on battery on the Nexus 6, the Nexus 8 will be out.
Right. All right.
I don't see any huge issues that make me scream and run in terror. So that's a plus. There have been times where I've seen issues so bad at the beginning that I just didn't know what I was going to do.
Like, this is awful.
Yeah.
Why did this have to happen?
Yeah.
Right. So we asked Phil the same question. If Google could implement one feature that you personally would request for Android, what would you suggest for Google to add to Android?
I want to see native Linux file sharing.
Ooh.
Whereas I want to be able to buy a box from Samsung or LG or Google or whoever that's nothing but a hard drive and an Ethernet port, and I plug it in, and it's just a little storage on my network, the same as you can buy now. But when I walk in the door and my phone kicks to my Wi-Fi, I want all those files instantly accessible from Android. I want to be able to treat it seamlessly, just like the SD storage. And yeah, I don't want to get into that can of worms that SD cards are broken, whatever. I can put movies and video or music and back and forth on an SD card without any issue. I want to be able to do that like every other build of Linux in the world except Android.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. I love SD cards.
I understand that the UI would be extremely difficult, and that's part of the reason why Google doesn't use SD cards, is it's tough to make a UI that doesn't look like a horrible two-pane file manager.
Right.
I want to be able to have, I want to be able to have a rack with 40 terabytes of storage on it that I can access from my phone anytime I'm at home.
Right? That would be nice.
The tools are all there.
Right.
That has always puzzled me, because I'm a Linux user on the desktop, and I've got 5 machines in my closet, and they're all connected together.
Right.
And they came that way. All you had to do was say yes. So that's what Google could do to really wow me. If you do that, I'll run up to your offices in Mountain View and I'll buy everybody lunch.
Whoa. You heard it here, folks. Mountain View, I know you're listening, because, do this, because I want to see Jerry do that. That would be hot.
You want to see me go bankrupt. That's what you want to see.
Never! No way. You know how much publicity you could get on that? You would make your money back like that. So, what's your current favorite smartphone? Still the Moto X 2013?
That's the toughest question so far.
Well, no, for you, not for everybody else, but for
Well,
you.
no, for me it's the toughest question.
You're like, no, dude, I'm telling you.
I want Lollipop.
Okay.
The Moto X 2013 doesn't have it yet. I look at it and I say, when will you get Lollipop? And it doesn't answer me. So, okay, Google now, when will you get Lollipop? And it says nothing. It does a Google search.
Mm-hmm.
So you move to the 2014 Moto X. With Lollipop on it, I haven't seen any big show-stopping bugs, and all the Motorola software still seems to work. So that's really good. I love the software on it. I'm happy. I'm good to go. But they made it a little bit too big for me. I'm a small phone guy.
Yeah.
So I jump over to the Z3 Compact, and that is the perfect form factor. A lot of people don't like glass-backed phones, and I get you. I've never had an issue with them, but that phone fits perfectly in my hands. It fits perfect in my pocket. I love it. It's really fast and speedy, but it has some horrible third-party UI on it that I just hate, and no Lollipop. So I keep going around in a circle. I want a Lollipop, but I want a phone that's the right size, and I don't know what to do anymore. But when the 2013 Moto X gets Lollipop, I know that's going to be my phone. I still love that phone.
Nice. Nice.
Now, how many of those 2013 edition Moto X's you got sitting around there?
No, he was talking about compiling a
when
like a dragon, right, sitting on top of Moto X.
I've got 3 of them.
Okay.
When the 2014 still came out, I'm like, I know that's going to be too big. I'm not going to like it. So I'm going to order a spare, and I did. And then about 2 weeks later, I got a coupon in the mail from Motorola to take some money off. And then they had a sale, and they let me use the coupon on top of the sale. So I'm like, well, I have to. There's
Well, I mean,
So when those, when they stop working, I've got a spare to move to. So I'm good for a couple years.
Awesome.
Right.
Well, just a couple of quick things before you go. So, you're heavily invested in Android, but what would you say would be something that Google needs to do to keep its dominance? Because we should say that Google Play Services is different than Android open source project, right? So, it's possible that that there could be changes, right, going forward. With how everything goes, especially with the way the EU is beating up Google just in general. So what would you say that things need to shore up on Google's end for it to continue to do what it does? Because guys like you, I don't mean to interrupt, but guys like you, guys like us who buy the Nexus, who promote this ecosystem, people who can develop apps and push stuff out there and do the Internet of Things and connect all these different stuff, it's easy to lose that crowd if you don't do some things right. So go ahead.
Well, the first thing I want to touch on is I'm heavily vested in Android, like you said. I don't like seeing Google have an 84% of the market. I do not like that at all. Mm-hmm. Right now, I trust that Google will continue to innovate and that everybody will benefit. But that may not be the case next year. And if you are that big of a market leader and you don't want to drive innovation, everything's going to go stale. I would love to see a 3-way split between Google, Apple, and Microsoft with all 3 companies holding a third of the market. Mm-hmm. That would be my ideal situation. I don't think that's ever going to happen because I can buy a Moto E in India for $90, and it's just as good as any of the competition for the most part. Right. That's why Google holds such a high share of the market. To keep that share of the market, they have to find ways to bring what's next. Right. Whatever their vision is, what's next also has to work for people that can only buy an $85 or $90 smartphone. What works on the Nexus 6 is awesome for us. We can buy a Nexus 6. We have the disposable income. But you cannot forget that most of the world doesn't want to buy a Nexus 6. Right. They either aren't able to, or they don't want to spend that kind of money on a phone. A phone is to send text, look at Facebook, and make phone calls. I'm not spending $700.
Right.
You have to make those phones viable. That's where Microsoft is really stepping up. Apple, I'm sure Apple sees that space. Right now, they're not that interested in it. But that's the space. Google has said the next billion.
Right.
That's the key. The next billion is, that doubles your market for mobile. And if Google wants to capture 80% of that market, they have to entice the people that don't yet have a smartphone with great software.
Which that is what Microsoft seems to be aiming towards with these lower end devices. You have all these lower end devices for these emerging countries, and while the United States were kind of missing out on some flagships because of that.
But there's nothing wrong with Microsoft focusing all its energy to make everything out there run great on the 635.
Right.
Because you can go buy a 635 brand new for $100. And if you only have to spend $100 to get the best of all the software, everybody wins.
Right.
That's Microsoft has it nailed, and I think Google with Android Silver, they didn't forget. They have a lot at work here too. And like I said, you can't say that Apple doesn't care.
Right.
Apple sees this market, and right now they're not interested. If Apple stops making billions and billions and billions of dollars every year, then they might have a reason to be interested. But they are very happy with their niche, and could you blame them? I mean, I think they ski on mountains of money out there in Cooper.
Yeah, they totally do.
Yeah, it's like Scrooge McDuck and his money
I
ball.
know. Scrooge McDuck.
They swim in the gold coins. They don't need to change anything right yet.
Right.
Yeah,
But-
I think it's going to be the innovation. I feel like is going to be much smaller of a peak, right, going forward, because we see the watch. You got Google Watch, you got Microsoft Band, you've got Apple Watch. So and then you've got all these different other kind of internet things or whatever. I think the innovation is going to stop a little bit, and we're going to see the concern I have, and what I share when you've talked about it on other shows, which is the 64-bit, because Android is the PC for mobile, right? So I'm concerned that because of this year's kind of like waiting period, which is this year has been kind of weird. I don't know if you feel it, but I feel it's been really weird because it's been kind of like, okay, hurry up and wait type of mentality. Like, it's coming, it's not here yet, but it's on its way. You can't tell techies that. You might as well just tell us, you're going to spend eternity in purgatory,
Yeah, and I get it because, and you get it because we see the whole picture. I mean, I really wish the Nexus 6 had shipped 64-bit.
I know, I'm concerned.
I also know what type of storm there would have been had Google said the Nexus 6 is shipping in July 2015.
Yes. Because
right now, there is no hardware readily available at scale to do it. NVIDIA did I have issues with the Nexus 9, but none of them involve the internal hardware. It gets a little warm, and if you run it really hard, it destroys the battery, which is exactly how it should work. They did an excellent job, but that type of, man, you put that in a phone, your battery life's going to be like 8 minutes, and it's going to burn a hole through your pocket. So that's not viable.
No.
And Qualcomm and Samsung and TMSC, they just haven't stepped up yet. It's coming. CES, I think we're going to see a bunch of 64-bit phones. And I would not be surprised to see a Nexus 5 refresh next summer.
That would make a lot of people happy, I'm sure.
I'm not going to step out on a limb and say it's coming, but it makes perfect sense.
Right. There is a certain trajectory that
Google
expected.
Google didn't build a 6-inch phone without any plans to.
Right.
It's a lot of things are coming, and like you said, they're just not ready yet, and it's frustrating.
Right. Because it's like this eternity of waiting. We can't. It's just like we go crazy. We got to have a new thing. We have to have a new thing to talk about because now we're all caught up in, because we get hooked like you're hooked. You go to Mobile Nations, you start, getting all this stuff. We're like, feed me, see more. We need more, more blood, and we're not getting it. But we've taken up enough of your time. Again, from the bottom of our hearts, we really appreciate you coming on the show. We're big fans, and and I know we say that about the people that we have on, but truly, you are someone, and Kevin can speak to this more than I can, but you're someone that we look up to for certain information in the Google Open Linux space. So thank you so much for taking out the time to spend it with us here this morning. So where can people find out more about you and what it is that you do and all that stuff?
If you want to find out more, on the work side, go to AndroidCentral.com. I mean, if you don't see anything about me on the front page, just write a comment on any of the stories that those bums wrote. Where's Jerry? More Jerry. But if you want to connect with me,
Jerry.
if you want to connect with me, on a more personal level, and you may find a few salty words here and there. Look for me on Google+. It's plus Jerry Hildenbrand. You'll see 2 of them. One is my corporate account, and it has like 9 followers. Ignore that one, and follow the other one, and just holler at me. I like to holler back.
Nice.
Will we ever see you come back to Twitter? I mean, I know you still have your account. And
I try. I left Twitter because of I somehow, and I think it was a joke. I think this was Phil. I'm going to go around and blame him.
Yeah, it's Phil's fault.
Sold my
Hey,
Twitter
don't worry, I
handle.
blame Kevin for everything.
Somebody sold my Twitter handle to one of those spam dealers.
Oh, yeah.
And every time I would say something on Twitter, I would get bombarded with win a free iPad.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And, the first time it happened, I'm going to report each and every one of you. That'll fix you. And then the second time, I'm like, okay, you win. That's enough. You win. And I just stopped. That's been fixed.
Okay.
You get so used to Google Plus and not having to try to fit everything in 160 words and having a few more creative tools that it's and I hate to say this, Twitter, it's hard to go back to you.
Mm-hmm.
I miss some of the people that I only talked with on Twitter, so I guess that's the reason.
It's like, baby, we had it good, and then
Right.
you got sick. So I'm surprised that you and Phil, now that we're talking about, talk about politics, because that is like, there's like 2 things you don't talk about: religion and politics, right? Unless you really are ready. Like you crack your knuckles, you look at your screen, you're like, let's do this, and then you start,
I appreciate anybody's politics.
Right.
But I do have ideas of my own, and I'm not afraid to say when I agree with others. I hope that I'm not somebody whose head is filled with party pudding and just, repeat whatever lines I'm told. I like to think of myself as a free thinker, and I encourage everybody to do that. If your thoughts and ideas are different than mine, I'm still glad you have thoughts and ideas and aren't just pushing the button that the commercial told you to push.
Oh, right.
So, politics is something that I think we need to have more of with less fighting.
Yeah, more production, right?
Right.
Yes.
That's kind of weird that, people will take the time out to go Flappy Bird it, but they won't take the time out to go, politic it, I guess you could say. But
and it does no good for you and I to argue because we have different political beliefs.
right.
We need to find a common ground somewhere, and that's, I want a lot of things in this country fixed, and I want them fixed the right way through the ballot box. So
Right.
politics are very important to me.
Yeah. Do you see there being more in the future with politics and technology? I mean, my hope is that I can vote from my phone. That would
Right.
be sweet.
There's no reason we can't. I mean, that technology is there. That can be, only every vote only gets counted once. That technology's there.
Right.
A web app where your phone can connect and talk and make sure that the data you want to send is sent. That technology's there. I think it's those guys that look like they're 160 years old and still wear the polyester
They get
suits.
wheeled.
Yes.
They get wheeled in there, and you're like, "Holy cow! Is that the devil?" Does he go home and suck the lives out of children, or the souls out of children?
They're afraid of this kind of technology, and they're going to do everything they can to stop it. Because, 20 years ago they may have been right. 20 years ago, computerized voting probably would have been very riddled with
Corruption.
unfair. I wasn't going to go there, but yeah, corruption.
Just
But that's changed. So I think some of these people need to change along with it. And
Right.
I'm not going to touch on they want to suppress voters because I don't think that's the case.
Right.
I don't think that's the case from anybody at all. It may appear it, but I don't think that's
Well,
right.
there's not enough engineers. So there's not enough engineers. There's not enough smart people in as far as that know a lot about science and engineering and software engineering in particular in our representation. So when you start talking technology, you got to be like to politicians. They're just like, you mean the Facebooks and the internets?
It's a series of tubes.
Yeah.
You know, that's a meme everybody loves, but that came from Capitol Hill. It's a series of tubes.
Yeah, it's scary.
And Al Gore invented the internet. That's how these people think.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to change. It's
I hope
maybe
so.
too slow, but you look at, children today, and I mean children like under 10 years old.
Right.
They all know how to use an iPad.
Yep.
They all know how to use, good God, they know how to use a Harmony remote, and I don't.
I know.
So-
You're like, are you kidding me with that?
When those kids grow up and they're the voting bloc, I think more people like that will be put in charge.
Right.
I just hope I'm not too old to see it happen, unless I'm, in that wheelchair sucking the blood out of people when I go.
I know.
That would be
You're not-
okay.
let's be fair. You're not ruling that out.
Right. I would be happy with that.
Did you see Jerry come in? Come to me, my children. Yeah. Oh my God, he's hooked up to an android. He's literally an android at this point. He's a floating head.
Pay no attention behind the curtain.
Yeah, he's Walt Disney's
Exactly.
head. So, again, thank you so much for being on. We don't want to take up any more of your time because I heard a bunch of buzzers go off, so I'm sure you got plenty of other better things to do than talk to us. But I want you to know, if you enjoy talking with us and everything, please come back. Let us know if there's anything you want to talk about, and we will put you in.
Cool.
give you another forum.
Yeah,
Cool.
whatever.
I'll keep that in mind because I always have things I want to complain about.
If you want to complain, or if you're happy, or if you're sad face, happy face, it doesn't matter. Tell us, guys, I want to be on. I want to talk about this, and we'll make it happen. Okay?
Okay, sounds great. And thanks for having me, guys. This was a load.
You're
of fun.
welcome. Thank you, Jerry.
Yeah. Thank you, Jerry. Again, wonderful, and have a great rest of your day, sir.
You guys too.
All right.
Later.
Bye. So this episode's going to go nice and long, but it's a great episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I'm not mistaken, you're the one who pretty much did all of the stories. So why don't you go
I
ahead?
threw in some stories there. We can always start off. I'm finishing up my first full week with the Nexus 6, and so far so good. Having a couple little issues. Battery life's been a little lower than expected, but I think with the turbocharger, we'll be able to still make that work with no problems.
Yeah, because Kevin was sad panda face or panda sad face. I can't remember how I say that with the Nexus because what happened? You were like JJ, the battery life. I'm not happy with this, man.
Well, I think it just took. Hopefully, it's just going to take a few days to more optimize for what I'm wanting. My expectations was a little high.
You're fiddling with it more now because it's new.
Oh God, Jerry's still here.
Jerry's still here, everybody.
Still here?
Oh, okay. Well, hey, I tell you what, you can stay on for as long as you want.
Yeah.
Oh, see, I was waiting for you to kick me off and say, "Get out of here."
No, we don't.
No.
We don't kick our guests. They choose whether they want to stay.
They choose if they want to stay or not.
Move on about their day.
I got a few more minutes. I'd be more than happy to hang around. You guys are kind of fun.
Uh-oh.
Stuffy old Phil
We're
Nickinson.
fun. Hey, Mom, we brought Jerry home. Hope
I
you don't
know.
mind.
Oh, that would be awesome. My wife knows how to cook, so you'd be happy with that. So we were talking about the Nexus. So Kevin got the Nexus from Motorola, which was a whole thing, and
Which it was better than trying to get it from Play Store, actually. When John Wiskowski posted on Twitter, he's like, "Ooh, I finally was able to get one ordered." I'm like, "Ooh, from Google Play." So I ran over there. I'm like, "No, they're all out of stock." He's like, "No, Motorola." So I ran over there. Dang, they're all in stock. So I went ahead and ordered one, and it arrived 2 days earlier than expected, and been happy with it ever since.
That's always welcome.
Yep.
Yeah, that's always a pleasant surprise.
So in messing around with your Motorola, let's be clear. It's not stamped. It's not tramp stamped. We'll say that.
No tramp stamp. The only thing on the back of mine says Nexus, Motorola, camera, and some fingerprints since I got the midnight blue version.
Ooh, pretty. So the AT&T, we know, had some problems with a batch of Nexus devices. That was kind of interesting. And the other thing too, I should just kind of talk about real fast is the fact that right now the Nexus brand, it feels like Google. Oh, it scares me because they throw out things like the Q, right, and like all these other devices that they're just like, hey, here's this cool thing. If it takes off, whatever. But people like to be able to get behind something, right, and like push it forward because we're the guys and gals who our family goes to, and they're like, what device should I purchase?
Mm-hmm.
And
now, Jerry, did you get a Nexus Q, or do you still have yours?
Yeah, I've still got mine. I want to make it work, but I don't want to. I want to make it work like it did before. I don't want to change it. I don't want to make it into an Android device that plugs into the TV. I want it to be like a ball of casting fun.
All right.
And every time I get a new phone and I go to Google Play to put my apps in there, because I had it installed before the Nexus Q app shows up.
Mm.
And little tears come out one side and the other side just rages and I want to choke somebody and then throw that ball of titanium at them. It's not fair. You can't take it away. If you don't want to make it anymore, that's fine, but damn it, give me mine back.
right.
Yeah. I mean, I guess like the best aspect of that thing was for the people that bought it, didn't they end up just giving it to them for free?
Yep, because they there's no way you can. Everybody went off about the price, and it was too expensive. Nobody's going to buy it. Right. But when you held one, you realized, well, you can't make this thing for any less. You know, it's really. I took mine apart because I take everything apart. It actually has real stainless steel bearings inside, greased bearings like you'd find in a Peterbilt truck.
Really?
Wow.
Yes. You know, not just a piece of Teflon resting on another piece of Teflon like you find on most consumer electronics. This thing is real.
It's like an alien piece of machinery.
Yeah, so there's no way they're going to be able to manufacture that any cheaper, and there's no way anybody was going to buy it for the price they wanted. So it was a dead product. It was cool that they gave away to anybody that bit the bullet and ordered.
Yeah.
But I do have to cut off of here, guys. This was really fun.
Okay. All right.
Thanks for having me.
Come back. Come back. Just
I'll hit you guys up later.
All
right. Thanks, Jerry.
Later. Okay, so the next thing up was JJ has been. Well, this is directed towards me. JJ's been messing around with the Android L on his Nexus 5. So we talked about it a little bit during the show. You know, and I've never not said this. The Nexus 5 is by far totally worth the investment. If you want to purchase a Nexus 5 or on the fence about it, and you're like, you know what, I want a Nexus 6, but there's a lot of issues surrounding it right now, and blah blah blah. Just whatever reason that you tell yourself, you can pick up one of these. Don't buy them from Poland though, because Alejandro tried that, member of the team, and turns out that didn't come with LTE, and he's like, hey, how come this shows LTE? And I'm like, because it has LTE. And he's like, well, mine doesn't. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry. You know, I don't know what to say to that. Right. So anyway, so if you're on the fence about it, go ahead and get it. And the reason why I say that, before I would have said no, but Android L on the Nexus 5 has been phenomenal on the battery life. The battery life was my #1 complaint, and it seems to have been fixed. And that's crazy. That's crazy, Kevin. And I'm not kidding. What I do is I go, okay, an hour's worth of use, how much battery life did I use up? And then I have 3 different stages. I go light, medium, and heavy use. And I say, okay, what's the percentage of battery life that I use when I'm in light use? What's the percentage of battery life that I use when I'm in medium use? What's the percentage of heavy? So I start off heavy and I work my way down. okay? Or I start light and work my way up, and I do those two different things. I've done both of those tests now, and both of those tests mathematically are dramatically different, meaning that I was using somewhere between 25 and 30% of battery in an hour, and now I'm only using 10.
Wow.
So that is crazy, right?
Yeah, that's
hard to ignore. That's hard to ignore. And the reason why I say that is it's hard to ignore because of how many times I had to plug this thing in. Like when I was using it kind of like a primary device, I haven't had to plug it in for hours. And that is extreme ends of the spectrum. So how crazy is that?
Right. Now, I just recently went ahead and paired up. Actually, it was just this morning. I went ahead and set the G Watch back up, and I'm going to use it with the Nexus 6 for a while, just to see if that has much of an effect on battery life as well. You know, running Bluetooth constantly.
Oh, yeah.
Just to see if that makes any difference. I know whenever you're really trying to give the Nexus 5 a shot, you know, you were using the G Watch, and that's how you were like, man, this battery life is just terrible.
That's true.
Constantly having to plug it in.
Well, but I paired it up with my my watch, or not my watch.
Your band.
I mean, my band. Yeah.
It's a watch.
It's a watch.
Tells
it's
the time.
A watch. It does tell the time. Yeah, you're right. Oh, it's just not called a watch. Okay.
Right.
I just need to pop my back. Okay. So you're right, but to answer your question, I paired it up and it works just fine.
Yeah. I mean, I had my band paired up with the Nexus 6 for, you know, the last few days before we moved, which, granted, if you're watching and you're seeing my backdrop and you're like, oh my god, it's a different backdrop. Yeah, we moved, so.
Yeah. See, usually I'm the guy whose like backdrop like changes or moves around. Yeah. Like I'm up here, I'm down here, I'm over here, you know. But yours is you're moved, and that's kind of nice. I like that chandelier. It kind of looks like it's gonna hit you in the head.
Yeah, it needs to be raised up big time.
Oh, does it?
Like I can pretty much look at those candles eye to eye.
Oh, that's not good. That's yeah, you are a little shorter than I am. All right, Kevin, you're up with the next story.
All right, so the next thing that I want to talk about was Paul Thurrott over on WinSuperSite. First Windows 10 consumer, first Windows 10 consumer preview leaks have started to appear, and you know, the first technical preview that we've got that's currently available for people to download is more enterprise focused, and so you really, I mean, even though it works great for consumers, you're not getting all the consumer features that will actually release with it when Windows 10 does eventually come out in more than likely April or May 2015, probably at the latest. They talked about build number, adaptive UI, Internet Explorer 12, Cortana, which I'll just go ahead and read a little bit of this little paragraph. There are traces of Cortana all over the Windows technical preview, but this one was so obviously telegraphed by Microsoft that we don't even need that evidence to know that the personal digital assistant technology is coming to Windows 10. In the consumer preview, most likely, though IT Home seems to think that it won't happen until build 2015, which will be April. So obviously that's the Build conference, which 2014 version of Build was just absolutely amazing, and we're going to hope and do everything we can to be at Build 2015, because just really great place to be.
Yeah, and also we should be able to qualify, so we're good. We should be able to.
Also more desktop improvements.
Awesome. So real quick though, I never really kind of answered Android L. So Android L, unfortunately, I think that every phone, and I told you this, Kevin, I think that every Android phone should be running this version of Android L and not OEM like LG, HTC, Samsung.
Yeah, not the heavy skins.
This UI is by far the best, and we talked about that there in the show. So I'm just going to close off that conversation. Okay, opening up this next one. So to comment on the Windows 10 thing, I am running Windows 10 on, and so you remember when I told you that the Windows 10 was the most stable version of Windows on my laptop?
Oh, on your Sony Vaio?
That changed pretty quick.
Oh,
So that changed after. So there was, I want to say, 2 different build releases, if I'm not mistaken, since then.
yeah, there
Um,
was one 2 weeks ago, I believe.
yeah, but there was one right before that.
Yes.
So there was 2 different releases. The first one, second one, it's not even turning on. So I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm
Oh,
just gonna
brother.
take it apart, and I'm gonna pull a Jerry Hildenbrand on this thing, and I'm just gonna dig deep and figure out what the heck went wrong. I'm gonna honey badger it, is what I like to say. So I'm gonna try to figure out what's going on. But the long story short of it is, when it was working, so man, everybody is like, if you pay attention to Windows at all, which you should if you're into tech, you should pay attention to Apple, Google, and Microsoft. You should pay attention to those 3, and Amazon if you really want to. But if you're deep into it, obviously, I don't know if there's any really good shows. I'm going to look for that, Kevin, if there's any good shows or any good information on the Linux and Firefox stuff. But so we do see a lot of the notifications. So there was an update since the very first update to Windows 10 on my computer, and there was these really neat little transitions. And Paul Thurrott does not like those transitions and those little UI element things.
Yeah.
Well, they went away in the most previous version. Right. They went away in the most previous version, and so I don't know if that's what broke it or whatever. But I kind of like that stuff. I like the whole idea of, you've seen the movie Iron Man, right? Where you've got Jarvis and like the
Oh, yeah,
interaction and stuff like that. I like that stuff. I like that stuff. I like interactions. I like transitions and UI elements and live tile flipping and all that stuff. So when that went away, I was like, no, whatever. But the Cortana integration, super stoked about. More integration with obviously, I believe it's Continuum. Am I right about that, or is it Continuity?
Correct.
Continuum.
Continuum.
Okay, Continuity is Apple's thing, right?
I believe so.
Yeah. So then, so looking at that, I'm excited about that because I do like Cortana. I wish I would have remembered this. I was one to ask Jerry, what do you think on voice integration? But I'm pretty sure I know his answer to this, which is he doesn't give a crap about it. But so I like Cortana. I like the future of this personal interaction with my devices. Because if I say, okay, Google, or okay, Cortana, or whatever, and I can say pull up or open up Word document named this, or open this, you know what I'm saying? Like, you walk into your house and you're like, all right, turn on computer, open this document, do this, get on it. I want that. That's what I think we can get to with the new versions of Windows. That's what I think the future is going to be like.
Yeah, I think that would be real nice with your Windows desktop, just being able to just fire up a search just by saying Cortana. I mean, you can kind of already do that to a point now if you're using the Chrome browser with Google now, and you've got that all set up properly for voice recognition. You can do some little hands-free stuff with that. I mean, granted, I don't use it that often, but it's there if I want to.
But we can see it being perfected in the future, right?
Yeah.
Like, we can see if Windows can just be one copy of Windows, and then just be able to kind of write once and then just do all this stuff in the background, with cloud and all that kind of jazz. We can see how cool that's going to be. So, yeah, so very excited. Kevin, you're up with your next story.
All right, so there's been a lot of talk, obviously, with Apple Pay and all these other mobile payments, because now Apple invented mobile payments with NFC apparently. Right. So Square, headlined by founded by Jack Dorsey and Jim McKelvey, says that it will start accepting Apple Pay sometime in 2015. So many people have probably been to coffee shops or just other at trade shows and things like that, where people have a little Square register set up where you can just simply swipe your card right there. It's not a typical credit card processing setup. So they'll pretty soon be able to start doing some NFC payments and accepting them that way. Whether you're using soft card or Google Wallet and Apple Pay, you'll be able to do all that. And also, they mentioned something about being able to accept Bitcoin in the next year.
Nice.
Yeah. So, buying things is going to be a little easier.
So,
my experience with soft card has been positive so far. I've used it twice with my 1520, and I've used it once with my Nexus 6, and it worked flawless. So, and that's not Apple Pay, it's soft card, and you can get the app available on AT&T and Verizon for sure, because I know they're in my Google Play list of apps that I can download since I use primarily those devices.
So, okay, cool. Yeah, I'm excited about that. I wonder why Google pulled some of their support for that. Anyway, that's a conversation for another time. There was something that I did want to talk about this week, especially because lately I've been using Mozilla a lot. Firefox. Turns out they signed a deal with Yahoo.
Okay.
That was
yeah, the default.
Wasn't that crazy? So Yahoo and Firefox, which is made by Mozilla, says, hey, for the next 5 years, Yahoo and us, we're besties, right? So that was interesting to me, but if you read into it, I pulled up a story, I want to say that it was on Android Central, but if not, I apologize. If you dig deep, or maybe it was Engadget, something like that, but if you dig deep, it's interesting to note that that Mozilla needed to make money, right? And the more money it gave to Google because of its search and things of that nature, the less likelihood that Mozilla was going to make the funds and that sort of thing. So you can kind of understand why they made that choice. And here's what's also interesting. I would say back in the summer or back in the spring, Microsoft's Bing search engine and Yahoo had a partnership. Well, guess what? Yahoo is renegotiating that deal. So instead of having the same partnership going forward, that's going to change too. That's kind of crazy. Not a lot of people knew that little tidbit. You're welcome, listener. Yeah, the Tech Informist. That's what we do here.
Yes.
So what do you think about that stuff, Kev?
I mean, obviously for Yahoo, it's all about the money and trying to get their search engine, and Marissa Mayer has been trying to get Yahoo turned around. So I mean, it doesn't mean that you can't switch your default browser. Just as soon as you install Firefox on your computer, you're going to see Yahoo as your default browser now. So, where I believe previously it was Bing. If I remember properly, I think Bing was the default search provider for Firefox before, but I could be wrong.
No, it was. Wait, you mean before it was Google?
Yeah, I can't remember.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We gave our consumers enough information. Okay, so you're up with your next story.
Yeah, so the last thing that I want to talk about is Time Magazine has released their list of top 25 best inventions for the year 2014 as we, head towards the home stretch for the calendar year. And they have named the Microsoft Surface Pro 3 one of those top 25 inventions for the year. And they dub it the tablet that replaces laptops. And here's what Time Magazine says. Microsoft's latest hybrid bundles the power of a laptop into a svelte 12-inch tablet and can run desktop apps like Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. That, as well as a slim detachable keyboard cover and built-in stand that makes the Surface usable on a desk, makes it more suitable than other tablets for professionals like doctors and business people. No wonder organizations such as Coca-Cola and Seattle's Children's Hospital have adopted it in droves.
Nice.
So that's a really good article, and I'm actually going to change the link that is going to be in our show notes to reflect the actual Time article, not the one that I linked to there.
Oh, okay.
It's a pretty good article. It lists all the other ones, like the Apple Watch is on there, even though it's not out yet. So I don't know how they can judge that as the best invention for 2014.
Right, because it's not really available.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I agree with that. So this is interesting to me because I think the Surface Pro 3 is a hit, and I mean, when you go to a Microsoft store, you see more Surface Pro 3s walking out of there than you do anything else.
Right.
HP came out with something over the last week that was pretty hot. I don't know if you saw that. Very, very similar with a Beats audio and front-facing speakers that were, down the side of it. It reminded me a lot of the new Nexus 9, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
The form factor. So I'll make sure I put that in the show notes because I actually have a link for all these stories that I'm talking about. I have links to and everything. I just haven't put them in there. But they'll be on the show notes for the page. Go to the techinformist.com to see those. But I'm not doing a tech ticker this week because we were so heavily involved with that conversation and because of all the news that came out, which I didn't expect, right before the holiday. But today something came out that I do want to talk about real fast, which was T-Mobile, a very controversial program which allows the availability of streaming music to your device and not hitting your data. Okay, so right now, if you're on AT&T, Verizon, Sprint, whatever, T-Mobile, when you stream things via the internet, via the mobile web, okay, you're able to, or that goes against your allotment for the month. Well, right. T-Mobile came out and said, guess what? If it's music, you can stream that music, and it won't go against your allotment for the month. That was controversial because that means it's like, well, wait a minute. Isn't that a little bit of non-net neutrality? And if we know anything from listening to Jerry Hildenbrand, we know that net neutrality is a big deal. So, Kevin, what are your thoughts on the fact that Google Play and guess what? Xbox Music is now available on T-Mobile's streaming for music.
So they've added that to that. I mean, I know T-Mobile's had this for a little while where it doesn't count against your monthly data allotment, and I think it's great. It's another way that T-Mobile's making waves in the cellular industry. So I think it's great. And
I have the list here if you want to know it.
Yeah, go ahead and read those off real quick because I'd like to see what's changed from the last time I really paid attention to that whole that story.
Yeah,
I don't have a T-Mobile account.
Yeah, right. So Google, which actually they've been doing a good job of sending us that information. We should thank them, by the way. Google Play Music. Here we go. Google Play Music, Rdio, Songza. Let's see which Google just.
You probably see a bunch that you don't even recognize, which is the way I was. I'm like, what's that?
I know. I'm so bad. I want to listen to more music. So Microsoft Xbox Music, SoundCloud, Radio Tunes. So Xbox Music, Google Play Music. Those are the two largest ones in Rdio. Fit Radio. I didn't even know that was a thing. SoundCloud, like I said, Radio Tunes, digitally imported. Fresca Radio. What is that? A drink radio? Jazz Radio, Live 365, Mad Genius Radio, Radio Pup. P-U-P, okay. Radio.com, Rock Radio, oh, that sounds fun. And Savin, God, that it's S-A-A-V-N. That's ridiculous. Let's see, Rhapsody, Pandora, AccuRadio, Black Planet, Groove Shark, iHeartRadio, iTunes Radio, Samsung Milk Music, that's interesting. Radio Paradise, and Slacker.
Yeah, dude, until they bring in things like TuneIn Radio or iHeartRadio, that would be some of the things that I would listen to. Put those on there. But I mean, the whole Google Play, that's awesome. And now if they can get Amazon Prime music streaming, add that to the list. That'd be pretty fly.
I was just getting ready to say that's really the last two.
There's not much more that they need to really add.
Yeah, I would say iHeartRadio and Amazon. Then it's over.
Or YouTube with this whole YouTube music or whatever that just came out last week that started rolling out to Google Play All Access subscribers.
Yeah. The issue with this is T-Mobile doesn't have awesome reception.
Yeah, building penetration. That's their issue. Signal.
Building penetration, yeah. Yeah, you're right. So that is interesting to note. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was the Samsung Galaxy S5 only sold 40% less units than Samsung predicted. That is crazy talk.
Yeah. Well, you figure most people jumped from the 3 to the 4 and didn't really see the need to upgrade from the 4 to the 5. That's my thoughts.
I also agree with that, and I would also say the 5 really didn't change anything, and I think the design of the 5 really wasn't as sexy as it could have been.
Yeah.
If the 5 would have been like the Note 4, it would have been,
Yeah, the design of the Note 4 is excellent.
It's gorgeous.
But the Note 5 was a great step from the 3, but not a huge enough step from the 4.
Right. All right. And then Aereo, if you guys even care about this, filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. They were trying to provide people with streaming TV. Even though you weren't in your hometown, you could stream it from wherever you were in the world. So that's unfortunate because I kind of wanted to tune into local channels even if I wasn't there, but it wouldn't apply to me because you have to have an address that was legally binding to the locale. I don't know. That was a whole thing that kind of, I don't know, that ticked me off a little bit. But that's the frustrations we get from TV. So, Kevin, if you don't have any other questions, the only thing I would say, looking forward to this week, dude, how crazy have I been in my predictions? Like I've been on it. Remember with the Nexus last week with that whole not Nexus, I'm sorry, Nokia.
Yeah.
The Nokia thing, I was like, dude, it's not any of those things.
Yeah. You're right.
Yeah. So, my not really predictions for this next week, but we're not going to see a whole lot of change come from this next week as far as like devices and stuff. And I'll just say, if there is anything that pops out, it'll be most likely price reductions and stuff, just because this is holiday week and the marketing cycle is not there for people if they're trying to get into the news cycle for a device or anything of that kind. So just be on the lookout for price drops and be on the lookout for scams. Kevin, you could probably talk to this a little bit. There's going to be tons of online scams to get your credit card information, and just be safe when you're shopping out there, because our next episode is not going to happen until next Monday. And
Cyber Monday, actually.
It's going to be Cyber Monday, so we'll be lucky if our internet connection is going to be able to hang in there. But it's going to be a thing. So guys and gals, just be very aware that when you're shopping online, you got to just watch out who your sources are how you got there, because there's tons of way for people to take your money. So just be aware of that. Yeah, just be careful.
And if the deal's too good to be true, there's a good chance that it is.
It is always.
Be wary.
It is always something you don't want to do. So the other thing is we should be on the lookout for any information of price drops and stuff like that. Okay, Kevin, you're up with your application picks of the week.
All right, so since I'm back on an Android device and the Nexus 6 has a huge display, I've went back to my favorite calendar app, and it's called Pure Calendar Widget Agenda version, and it's, like I said, it's on Android, and it's $1.99. It's very customizable. It takes a little bit to get set up, but you can choose all kinds of different themes. I pretty much run a pure transparent theme, and whenever I want to add a new event to my calendar, all I hit is the little plus button, and it opens up right into my Google Calendar. So you have those options. It's definitely worth it, and it's very nice. You can pick and choose which calendars you want to display on there, and you can also integrate it with to-do apps. So task apps that like to check things off. It's very good, very, very nice, and it's working very well on the Nexus 6 with Android L.
Nice, very cool. Yeah, I noticed you didn't have any Windows picks for this week. How dare you, sir?
Nope. No, hey, I converted you, man. I brought you over.
No, you didn't need to bring anybody over. I'm just using
Oh yeah, you know.
I'm just no. I'm using
you're enjoying your trip.
I'm
on
using it
Android.
because of the Android Studio.
Research purposes.
No. Android Studio, man. I'm telling you, it's pretty neat. I'm not saying anything bad about it, which is kind of interesting because usually I have plenty of bad stuff to say, but the fact that it's so easy to get a hold of, especially on GitHub, it's so easy to get a hold of code and kind of make your own applications for Android. It's pretty easy. It's like App Studio essentially. Right. It's pretty neat. I'm liking it, but yeah, no, I like I said, I'm a sucker for those transitions and stuff and those UI elements, and I really like the material design. I really like it. I suggest everybody give it a try. I did like a couple of things on Twitter. Some people were like, bleh, and I was just like, yeah, that's kind of funny. But for the most part, it is nice, and I think that most normal users are people who like technology are really going to like it. But my application picks of the week, got to give a shout out to my brother man Alejandro Ramirez from Inertia, on a roll for iOS, because I needed an application pick for iOS. Also, Start Design. It's 99 cents on Windows phone. You can go check it out. It's really cool, Kevin. Have you seen this? Have you checked it out?
Let's see. I can't remember if I have or not.
You should.
I want to say I have, because whenever I find cool apps on Windows, I generally get them.
Yeah, the design for the icon for the app is like a total blatant ripoff of the Office Suite applications. It's got the, like X, for Excel, and then you got Word, the W for W or whatever. Well, this has kind of got a D for like design, but it's really neat, and it's really cool. You can essentially make your home screen for your Windows phone look almost exactly like an Android device, and that's kind of weird. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but you can. But you can make it look really neat. So there's a lot of really cool UI stuff that you can do. I was just really interested in the fact that you could do what you could do with it. So I would invite you to check it out, sir.
Yeah, that's pretty neat looking, actually. Looking at it on the website now.
Oh, cool. Yeah, it's really interesting. It's only 99 cents, and I would suggest everybody go check it out for sure. But that's 99 cents, and that's on the Windows phone. I don't have a Google application pick yet, just because aside from the normals, I haven't really downloaded anything new. I did check out CM. Okay, fine. I'll pick one. CM Browser. C as in cat, M as in Mary, I don't know. CM Browser, it's like a secure way to browse the internet, and Minimal Wallpaper. It's got a lot of really neat looking wallpapers for Android that's got that material design look to it. It's really cool. I like it a lot. And then I made an Androidify of myself that I'll have to send to you, Kevin.
Yeah, it's pretty funny stuff there. Yeah,
that's cool. It reminds me of South Park. And I'm a huge fan of South Park, so
very South Parkish in design.
Yes, very. So, anyways, so if you guys, our listeners, if you want to comment or contribute on any of the stories that you heard, or any of the application picks or guests you want us to check out, contact at thetechinformist.com. Send us an email. Again, thank you, Daryl. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, everybody who gives us feedback. We really appreciate it. We hope we made you laugh at some point throughout the show. We hope we brightened your day at some point throughout the show. And if we haven't, tell us what we did wrong so we can fix it. Kevin, do you have any other things that you want to talk about now?
No, I'm good. I think it was an amazing episode. Jerry was a phenomenal guest, kind of pretty much what I expected. So
yeah, totally. We haven't had a bad guest. You know what I mean? No. And that's really great. That's really cool. I really hope that that streak continues for all 1,000 episodes that we want to do.
Yeah, if you hear this episode and this is the first time that you've listened to the Tech Informist, we've got 12 more before it. Go back through and catch up. Collect them all.
Yeah, for sure. So you can find me on Twitter. That's where I'm most active, at JJ Hammond Music. And please don't send a bot to me. I don't want that to happen. You can find Kevin at Kevin Harvell. You can find this show at Tech Informist. So that'd be awesome for sure, for sure. And just thank you again to our listeners. Thank you again, Jerry Hildenbrand from Android Central. You can find him on Plus Jerry Hildenbrand, I believe. You can find me plus JJ Hammond. You can find Kevin, I believe, plus Kevin Harvell.
Correct. Yes.
Yep. Look at that. That's right. I am on it.
Yep.
So thank you again, everybody. So from the entire crew, consider yourself informed. We're out.
And have a happy Thanksgiving.
Oh, that too.
All right.
Bye-bye.